Let's talk about this debate between public sector life's work and private sector life's work. You've spent your life's work, Mr. Kaine, in the private sector, and Senator Santorum, most of yours in the public sector. Weigh in on what you're hearing.
I think what people are looking for is someone to get something done. And that's what I have a track record of doing in Washington, D.C., across the board, not just on economics, but on moral cultural issues, on national security issues, national defense issues. I've done things. We brought Democrats and Republicans together. I've put forward a plan because I think it's the best plan. But it's also the best plan of anybody here that actually can pass the Senate, which is probably going to have to have Democratic votes. And what I focused on was a sector of the economy that can get Democratic votes. We cut the corporate tax from 35% to 0%. Because we want to build the great middle of America again, get those jobs that were shipped overseas by companies that were looking to make a profit because they couldn't any longer do it here, and bring those jobs back to America. We cut that corporate rate to 0%. We pass repatriation to get that resources that are sitting overseas, $1.2 trillion, and we bring them back here. We'll create jobs, and I'll get Democratic votes to pass it. We'll bring things together because of those industrial straight Democrats. And I know, because I'm from an industrial state, they will vote for this bill. You want to get something going, elect someone who knows how to get things done.
Time, Senator Santorum. On another front, you're a devout Catholic. You've always said that you will not place it aside in your role in elected public life. In fact, you thought President Kennedy, the first to be elected president, did so a little bit too much with his own religion. Having said that, the Catholic faith has, as a part of it, caring for the poor. 1 in 7 people in this country now qualifies as poor. Where do the poor come in? Where do they place in this party, on this stage, in a Santorum administration?
There is no one in the 12 years I was in the United States Senate that did more to work on poverty issues and working on the poor than Rick Santorum. I was the author, when I was in the House of Representatives, under the tutelage of Newt Gingrich at the time, of the Welfare Reform Act. And we didn't pass welfare reform to cut money. We didn't pass welfare reform to punish anybody. We changed the welfare system because it was punishing people. We had a federal system that was creating a culture of dependency. And we went out and talked to the American public and said, trust us to end this federal entitlement, put a work requirement in place, put a time limit on welfare, give the flexibility to the states with a block grant, and we will transform this system from a dependency system to a transitional system. And it worked. Half the people in this country were dropped off the rolls, and they didn't go into poverty. In fact, poverty went to the lowest level ever in 2001. The rate of black poverty among children, lowest ever recorded. Working women who were never married went to the highest level, increased by 50%. We transformed the welfare system because we believed in the dignity of every human person to be able to provide for themselves. We believed in bottom up, not top down. We need to do the same thing with food stamps. We need to do the same thing with housing programs. All of these other means-tested entitlement programs that are creating a culture of dependency have to be changed, not to save money, but to save people's lives.
Governor Parry says in his book that it was, quote, unprincipled for Republicans to vote in favor of creating the Department of Homeland Security. You were one of those Republicans who voted yes. Respond.
We created a Department of Homeland Security because there was a complete mess in the internal in protecting our country. We had all sorts of agencies that had conflicting authority. We had no information sharing that was going on. This was right after 9/11. We saw the problems created as a result of 9/11, and we put together a plan to try to make sure that there was better coordination. I want to get back to this Gardasil issue. You know, we have Governor Parry's out there and claiming about states' rights and states' rights. How about parental rights being more important than states' rights? How about having, instead of an opt-out, an opt-in? If you really cared, you could make the case, instead of forcing me as a parent, and I have 7 children too. The wide receivers here have on the ends here have 7 children each. But I am offended that the government would tell me, and by an executive order, without even going through the process of letting the people have any kind of input. I would expect this from President Obama. I would not expect this from someone who's calling himself a conservative governor.
Senator, your solution?
Well, my solution is very similar to Newt Gingrich's. Look, I'm the son of an Italian immigrant. I think immigration is one of the great things that has made this country the dynamic country that it continues to be. People who are drawn because of the ideals of this country. And so we should not have a debate talking about how we don't want people to come to this country. But we want them to come here like my grandfather and my father came here. They made sacrifices. They came in the 1920s. There were no promises. There were no government benefits. They came because they wanted to be free and they wanted to be good law-abiding citizens. So we have to have a program in place that sets that parameter, that says you're going to come to this country, come here according to the rules. It's a very good first step. That the first thing you do here is a legal act, not an illegal act.
A quick follow-up, 30 seconds. So there are 11 million people that, fait accompli, they're here. What do you do with them if you are able to secure the border?
Well, I think we can have that discussion, that whether what we do with people, how long they've been here, whether they have other types of records, but to have that discussion right now and pull the same trick that was pulled in 1986, we said, well, we'll promise to do this if you do that. No more. We are going to secure the border first, and that's the most important thing to do, and then we'll have the discussion afterwards.
Congresswoman.
Senator Santorum, your reaction to Congresswoman Bachmann's stand on what we're watching take place in Libya right up till tonight?
Well, we're in the Reagan Library, and I'm hearing from at least a couple of people on this panel a very isolationist view of where the Republican Party should be headed about pulling troops out with Governor Huntsman and with Ron Paul. The bottom line is Ronald Reagan was committed to America being a force for good around the world. We were a society that believed in ourselves and believed that we can spread our vision to the rest of the world and make this country a safer country as a result of it. We didn't have missions where we put exit strategies saying this date is when we're going to leave. We didn't say that we are the problem and the cause of the problems that confront us around the world. We are a source for good. We could have been a source for good from the very get-go in Libya. But this president was indecisive and confused from the very beginning. He only went along with the Libyan mission because the United Nations told him to, which is something that Ronald Reagan would have melted in like the old Wicked Witch of the West before he would have allowed that to happen. This is a very important issue for our party. Are we going to stand in the Reagan tradition, or are we going to go the isolationist view that some in this party are advocating?